This is a Comet from Pfister. It's arguably one of the most famous, most important, and iconic sports cars of all time. The design has changed very little in the last 60 years, but it doesn't really need to. It is timeless. And whether you're on the road, on the track, or on the dirt, it is both winning performance and winning races at the same time. And this, right here, at least for now, is the pinnacle of Comet performance. The SR from 2019. And let me tell you, this thing is insane. The performance, the grip, the aerodynamics on display, it's all simply astronomical. How brutally fast this vehicle is. Sure, it's not as fast as the Italian GTO, but it will give it a run for its money. And unlike the GTO, this is lovely to drive. It's got chassis reinforcements, aerodynamics, fancy tires, rear-wheel drive, and that famous or infamous rear-engine layout. This is a beautiful machine. But today it is rather overshadowed by this. The next Comet. The S2. And compared to the SR, it's a bit bizarre. It's over $500,000 more expensive, it's heavier, it does not have the clever aerodynamics both in terms of vents and in terms of that massive rear wing, and it actually has proper rear seats. So what gives? Well, this is definitely what you consider the normal model. Since this is the brand new S2 generation, they're not just going to give you the top of the line right off the bat. You got to evolve it over time. And as technology grows, you can expect this thing to get faster. But this one right here is the bog standard daily model, which is why it has all these fancy screens that add weight. It's why it has rear seats. It's why it's comfortable. Which is something you cannot say about the SR. I mean, the R stands for racing, and this is just the second iteration of that, if you will. So it's toned down, it's normal, it's very similar. Because, well, yes, everything I mentioned before still stands. This is still definitely a Comet. The wheelbase is still the same. The engine is still in the back. It's still naturally aspirated, and it still very much looks like the Comets of old. It's a very good-looking car, if you like this style. But does that mean it's no fun on the track, and too focused on being a daily car? Well, yes and no. In many ways, this is actually more engaging to drive than the SR. The SR is engaging because it is so blitzing fast, and you need to really be on it in terms of getting the best lap time, and that's how you get the enjoyment. This one, though, you're really on it because there is no rear-end grip. There is ridiculous amounts of oversteer in this vehicle. I think it's because of the lack of aero, and I think it's because of the more normal tires, but the rear engine layout as a whole does make it a bit more oversteer prone. They've been able to counter that with the SR with all the fancy trickery, but without all that, it means this is a very oversteery vehicle. Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing. It might not be your cup of tea, but it does have one major upside, and that is if you're like me and you like to have a little bit of fun in your car, the oversteer central, Jesus, that we have here does mean this car is very fun. It's got just that right amount of balance between aerodynamic trickery with the active rear wing, fancy traction control systems, and handbrake advancements with all that electronic shenanigans, but it still lets you have fun. It keeps you in check without killing yourself and without spoiling the fun. It's a very, very clever system, and I do quite like it. There is just one problem that all this oversteer can't get my head around, and that is the price. Which brings me back to the SR. The SR was expensive when it came out, for sure, over like 1.1 million if I recall. But it was also one of the fastest sports cars you could buy, and it still will give most sports cars a run for their money all these years later. And it's cheaper than the S2. So as much as I love the playful fun of the S2, this thing, with as much power as it has, can be equally as fun, so why wouldn't you buy the S2? Truth be told, I wouldn't. As great as this car is in terms of a normal machine, it's just that, a machine. There's no incredible feats that it can do. It's no different than the SR, except for the fact that it's not as fast on a lap and not as extreme in terms of aerodynamics. Which is a shame, but I guess we'll just have to wait for the upgraded one.